Okay, so which is the smaller number? Well, that's the question in this particular math problem. And let's suppose you encounter this problem on a math test or quiz. Could you get this thing right? Well, let's find out. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and read the problem. It says the following. One positive number is two more than another. The sum of their squares is 34. Find the smaller number. And obviously, this is a multiple choice question. So A is -5, B, or choice B is -3, C is 0, D is 3, and E is 5. All right, now feel free to use a calculator, but if you can figure this out, well, go ahead and put your answer into the comment section. I'll show you the correct answer in just 1 second. Then, of course, we'll walk through exactly how to solve this problem step by step. But before we get started, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John, and I have been teaching middle and high school math for decades. And if you need help learning math, well, check out my math help program at tcmathacademy.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. And if this video helps you out, or if you just enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe, as that definitely helps me out. All right, now before I show you the answer, let's go ahead and take one more look at the question. So it says one positive number is two more than another. The sum of their squares is 34. Find the smaller number. And again, these are choices. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the correct answer. So the correct answer is D. Okay, so the number is 3. All right, now how did you do? Well, if you got this right, well, you definitely get a happy face, an A plus, a 100%, and a certificate of excellence for being a certified professional in solving a basic math problem. Okay, now this particular problem can be solved in a various number of ways. Okay, well, I don't know how many different ways, but at least a few different ways. And there's a hard way and an easy way to answer this question correctly. Okay, now hopefully those of you that got this right took the easy path, but if you took the long path, that is fine. And if you're saying, hey, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I don't even understand what you're talking about, well, let's go ahead and get into this right now. All right, so again, right here, we are dealing with a multiple choice question. Now, this makes a huge difference on math exams. So, for those of you that are math students, or those of you that have to take some sort of exam like the SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, of course, these are exams, either, college entrance exams, placement exams. Nevertheless, even if you're not a student and you're an adult, maybe you're going for some sort of certification, when you see a multiple choice math problem, you want to use the answers to help you figure out the problem. Okay, so the objective here is to get the question right. All right, not necessarily to show off your algebra skills or math skills. I mean, that's great, but again, when you are taking an exam, you got to remember that you're up against the clock and you have to consider time. So you just don't want to read this problem. And of course, you should always use the rule of three, which is reading any math word problem at least 3 times before you kind of get into it. But once you read the problem and you understand what's going on, you need to consider a strategy to solve this problem. So let's go and take a look at something that's very obvious here, and hopefully most of you picked up on this. So it says one positive number. Okay, one positive number is two more than another. So we're talking about positive numbers. Now let's take a look at our answer choices here. We have -5. Well, is that a positive number? No, so we can eliminate that as an option. How about B? Well, that's -3, so we can eliminate that. How about C? This answer choice 0. Okay, so if we have two numbers and the smaller number is 0, how's that going to work? Well, 0 squared, well, we probably can eliminate this as well, right? Because we can kind of go through a process where we can kind of check these values. So really, these are the two best options, okay, 3 and 5. Now, what you can do is simply say, all right, well, one positive number is two more than another. So if, let's say, the choice, let's say you check 5, because we know that the answer is 3. Well, let's go ahead and check the correct answer first. So let's say, well, let's suppose that it is 3. Okay, that is our correct answer. So that's the small number. The other number is two more than the small number, so that would be 3 plus 2, which of course is 5. So now we have 3 and 5. So hopefully the sum of the squares of these numbers is 34. Let's check that real quick. So 3 squared plus 5 squared, is that 34? Well, this is looking pretty good. So 3 squared is 9. 9 plus 25 is indeed 34. So this is the correct answer. Now you could start with 5 and you'll see that that's not right. So you want to always use the process of elimination, okay, to solve math problems on exams. Now, let's suppose I was a kind of like not such a friendly math teacher, and I was kind of, writing a math final exam or midterm or some sort of chapter test. I could be like this. I could be like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and take away these choices. Okay. Now this is an open-ended math question, and now this is a different ball game. Okay. So here you're definitely going to have to use algebra, all right? But for those of you that figured this out, fantastic. And if you didn't figure this out, it's just a reminder that when you do have multiple choice exams, you need to use the answers. This is a great opportunity for those of you that are taking or still have to take math tests. All right, so let's go ahead and figure this problem out. Of course, we know the correct answer is 3. So I just showed you the easy way. Now we're going to take the long route to figure this out. Okay, and this is what you would have to do if you didn't have your multiple choice kind of options. All right, so what we're going to do here is establish a variable. So let's let x equal the small number. Okay, so if x is the small number, and over here in the problem, one positive number is 2 more than another, so the other number is 2 more than the small number. Okay, so that would be x plus 2. So we'll call that the big number. Now, what we have is some variables here, x and x plus 2, these expressions, but really what we're looking to do here is solve for x, because if we can solve for x, well, we're going to answer the question, right? The question is, which is the smaller number? Okay, so what do? Well, we have a variable. We can't solve for a variable in algebra unless we build ourselves an equation, okay? And we're going to have to go back to the information in the problem to do that. All right, so what do we need? Well, we need this part of the problem. The sum of their squares is 34. Now, anytime you see the word is in a problem, that is the equal sign. So this is pretty straightforward. Hopefully, most of you can be like, oh, I get this, Mr. U2 Math Man. The sum of their squares, so if we square the small number and then add it to the square of the larger number, that's going to be equal to 34. And we have two variable expressions right here for the small number and larger number. So let's go ahead and build this equation right now. Okay, so here is the sum of the squares of these two numbers, and it is equal, the sum is equal to 34. Okay, so we have x squared plus x plus 2 squared is equal to 34. All right, now at this point, we have a good amount of work to do because this is going to be a quadratic equation. Now, kind of as I kind of indicated, if you said, "Oh, here is I can do this problem," this is kind of show our answer choices again. You got to be very careful, and especially for those of you that are really strong in math. You could be very good in math, but there's a difference between being great at, let's say, solving algebra word problems and being a great test taker, right? So this is really important for those of you that are in some sort of course. You got to use these choices, but of course, if there isn't, then hey, we're going to have to approach this the long way. So doing this problem using an equation, kind of what we're doing here in a second, all this algebra, that is not the correct approach when you have your multiple choice options. That would just take too much time, as you're going to see right now. All right, so let's go ahead and get into solving this quadratic equation. So we have x squared plus x plus 2 squared is equal to 34. All right, so here we go. So x squared is, of course, x squared. X plus 2 squared is x plus 2 times x plus 2, and that's going to be equal to 34. Okay, so marching through this problem, we have x squared plus x plus 2 times x plus 2 is equal to 34. So right here, we need to multiply these two binomials, and we can use the FOIL method to do this. And FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, last, but basically, it's just a way that we multiply polynomials together. This is something that you absolutely need to understand. But here we go. So the first terms are these. Okay, so x times x is x squared. Then, well, let's go ahead and put this FOIL back up. So that's the first. The outer terms are these. Okay, so x times 2 is 2x, so that's our outer. Our inner is 2 times x, so that's 2x. And then our last terms are 2 and 2, which of course is 4. All right, so we have x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4. So what we need to do here is clean all this up by combining like terms. All right, so let's go and do that right now. And what we have is the following. Okay, so x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4. And the way I'm showing this problem, I'm breaking it down step by step. This is what you want to do, because if you don't, if you try to skip steps, you're going to significantly increase your probability of making an error. All right, so x squared plus x squared, that's 2x squared. 2x and 2x is 4x. And then, of course, we have a 4 equal to 34. All right, now we have this quadratic equation, so what we want to do is set it equal to 0. So we're going to subtract this 34 from both sides and move this over here. Okay, so when we do this, again, I want to subtract 34 from both sides of the equation. So 4 plus a negative 34 is negative 30. All right, now at this point, if some of you are, a little bit overwhelmed with this algebra, let me go ahead and make a recommendation right now. Check out my Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 courses. You can find links to those in the description of this video. Also, I have a ton of additional videos on all these topics on my YouTube channel. All right, so here we go. We are down to 2x squared plus 4x minus 30 is equal to 0. Okay, so this was a decent amount of work. Think about it. Let's suppose this was a 1-hour exam and there was 20, 30 questions. You're already kind of a couple minutes into this problem. So we are not done yet. Okay, so what do we do here? Well, we have a quadratic equation and we need to figure out how to solve for x. So let's go ahead and take the next step, which is having you quickly subscribe to my YouTube channel before we finish this problem up. Now, I am not shy for asking for help. Okay, I'm like, hey, I need your help because I am trying to reach as many people as I possibly can to help them in mathematics. So it's like, if I get your help, then I'm able to help someone else. But YouTube just loves the fact if people say, hey, you know what, I want to subscribe. It shows that you kind of, don't mind listening to me jabber about mathematics, right? But what I try to do on my YouTube channel is come up with creative, interesting problems. I definitely, my biggest thing is to not try to sound like a monotone math teacher. Okay, when you're teaching in the classroom, you're kind of restricted on how you can teach. Unfortunately, that's kind of the reality of a lot of teachers. But for me, I can just teach in my own natural style, right? So there's no rules other than for me to try to explain things in ways that people like and understand. But I definitely need your help to continue to grow my channel. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can get my latest videos. All right, so let's get back to this problem. So we have 2x squared plus 4x minus 30 is equal to 0. Now, hopefully, most of you out there saw, oh, we have a 2 here, we have a 4 here, and we have a 30. You could factor out a 2, okay, which would be the greatest common factor being 2, or effectively, you could divide everything by 2. So we want to simplify. We don't want to just work with these coefficients. We want to simplify this quadratic trinomial down into its simplest form. Okay, so when we do this, we have x squared plus 2x minus 15 is equal to 0. All right, now at this juncture in the problem, what we need to consider is what? Well, you don't want to go into the quadratic formula. Okay, for those of you who are like, hey, I'm going to do the quadratic formula, don't do that, okay? Now, you only do that if you have to do that. So here, we can't take the square root of both sides, so see if you can factor this thing. And luckily for us, this thing can be factored. All right, so x squared plus 2x minus 15 is equal to 0. Factors as x minus 3 times x plus 5. Now, factoring is a big area in algebra that a lot of people struggle with. Let's take a quick look at one of my favorite little math tricks, math hacks when it comes to factoring. Now, when you have a quadratic trinomial where the leading coefficient is 1. Now remember, this has to be in standard form, highest to lowest power. So when you have 1 in front of the squared term, like x squared, 1x squared. So if we had another number here, like say 4, you can't really do what I'm going to show you. Okay, there's another procedure that's similar. It's a little bit more involved. But when you have a 1x squared, 1y squared, well, this is super easy. Okay, so I like to teach it this way. So you're going to take 1, just multiply by the last number, that's negative 15. All right, or you can just go to this last number. The reason why I'm doing this is because when you don't have a 1 here, you do the same thing. So just take that 1, multiply by negative 15. Obviously, you know it's negative 15. Now we're going to list the factors of negative 15. So just start with 1, okay? So it's 115 and 115. So remember, to get a negative 15, it's positive times a negative. So it could be negative 1 times 15 or positive 1 times negative 15. That gets us to negative 15. But we also have 3 and 5. So I always write these in pairs. So negative 3 times 5 is negative 15, and a positive 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. All right, so what's the whole purpose of this? Well, look at the sum of each of these factors. Now, you don't have to write all of this out when you get good at this little technique. So negative 1 and 15, this is a positive 14. This is a negative 14 when we add the factors up, 1 and negative 15. Here, negative 3 and 5 is a positive 2, and then 3 plus negative 5 is a negative 2. Now, what's the whole point here? Well, we want to select the pairs of factors that add up to this middle number. What is that middle number? It's a positive 2, okay, positive 2. So it's this coefficient in front of x. So which one adds up to 2? This one right here, okay, negative 3 plus 5 is 2. Well, these are our factors because x squared, you're always going to have an x and x, so negative 3 will go here, and a positive 5 will go right there. All right, now this is a great little procedure for those of you that struggle in factoring, and I am full of little math hacks and math tricks to get you through your algebra class or whatever the case might be, but you definitely need to know how to factor. All right, so x minus 3 times x plus 5 is equal to 0 is how this quadratic trinomial factors. Now let's go ahead and set each factor equal to 0 because we have this thing times this thing is equal to 0. So one thing times another thing, and the answer is 0. Well, one or both is must be 0. So this is what we call the zero product property. So we set each of these factors equal to 0 and solve for x. So x is equal to 3 here, and x is equal to negative 5 right here. Remember, the answer, the number is positive. Now, if we go back to the question, it indicates it's positive. You can also just check these values, right, by going back into our problem. So negative 5 cannot be the solution because it has to be positive. So x is equal to 3. Now, this is a lot of work to invest on a multiple choice test. And this is like a red flag for those of you that are taking or have to take math exams, okay? So you're almost the people that are designing these tests are like, they're just like, I don't want to say they're not bad people because I do it, but you might think they're like, oh, these people they're kind of out to get me. Well, they kind of are out to get you, okay? Because what they want to see if you have the ability to think, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? You have to go slow. Don't start rushing into a problem. Take your time. In other words, you invest a little bit of time to think about the problem. Now, if you analyze what's going on and you say, okay, I can do a quadratic equation here, and I got to go through all this work to get the right answer. I know I could do it that way. If you have your first inclination is you can solve this problem because you know how to do all of this stuff, well, that's typically going to be the wrong choice or wrong approach, okay? Because these tests are designed, to be done in a timely manner. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to do this on a test, but oftentimes there is another option, okay? So think about that. So, hey, can I use these answers? Is there another quicker approach? And I would say more than 50% of the time there is, okay? So again, when you see multiple choice on a math exam, it's a dead giveaway to stop and think before you invest a lot of time. But anyways, I can talk about algebra and test taking, but here is the bottom line, okay? If you are a math student and you want to do well, in your exams, your grade, of course, obviously you want to do well, The key thing is to learn the skills. Don't look for test taking strategies. Be like, okay, I'm just going to look for secret ways to kind of pass my exams, not, what trying to avoid actually learning the material. So the best thing you can always do is learn the math. Okay. If you learn the math, taking tests is going to be much, much easier. All right. So with all that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your math adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.